Ms. Goldman, roll call to determine a quorum.
Mr. Moore,
Present.
Mr. Johnson,
Here.
Mr. Mason,
Here.
Mr. Armstrong,
Here.
Mr. Locke.
Here.
All present, Mayor.
Thank you, Ms. Goldman. I trust that everyone had a healthy holiday season, and we are certainly looking forward to all of the new developments that will take place in this new year. The clerk's office has been quite busy with tax collections and preparing W-2 forms. And I want to thank Ms. Goldman for all of the hard work in her office. We are in the process of making some upgrades inside the building this month, so be prepared if we have to close down operation for a few hours, change time so that we can get these things done. We are a part of Region 8 Urban Search and Rescue Initiative, of which Monroe Fire Department serves as the host department. Chief Montgomery attended the press conference. Chief Montgomery, you want to share some information with us about the emergency response? We are a part of Region 8. Several parishes are lumped together. Chief Montgomery.
Thank you, Mayor. Good afternoon, Council.
Afternoon.
As the Mayor stated, I attended the regional conference where we were setting this up. And in essence, what it is that departments in North Louisiana, Ruston, West Monroe, Bastrop, Ouachita Parish, Lincoln Parish, and Morehouse Parish are coming together to form a team for rescue. Back during, Katrina and a lot of the big events we had, it was a lot of national teams, but we didn't have a lot of state and particularly local teams. And so Chief Bryant and the rest of the fire chiefs in this area, we got together and decided that this would be something we'd be interested in. The State Fire Marshal Office helped us set it up, and I think it's something wonderful because anytime, it's just like with business organizations. If you can market yourself as a region instead of just a separate entity rather, you stand a better chance of being successful. So with all of us coming together as one unit, that gives us more strength because it is strength in numbers. And so it was an outstanding day and everybody was real thrilled, and we at the City of Bastrop and particularly the Bastrop Fire Department are proud to be a part of it. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief Montgomery, for attending that press conference. And all of these events help us to be more responsive to the public. Mr. Rainwater, this is a write-up from that, if you care to have some information on that team effort. Thank you. On February 8th, the Morehouse Parish School Board will be sponsoring a community-wide parent meeting on preventing bullying. Ralph Davenport is the contact person in reference to this parish-wide meeting. We also have met on extending the options for the EDA grant, extending that time frame to March 31st with anticipation of expediting things before then, but we wanted to give ourselves time for due diligence. So we are still working on the EDA options and the grant due diligence process. I met with DG Foods today, feel that it was a very productive meeting in reference to who is responsible for executing what duties associated with getting this company off the ground. And they are looking forward, just as we are, in coming to Bastrop. That concludes my announcements. Are there any other announcements? Thank you. Item number 4, approval of previous minutes, regular meeting December 9, 2010, and special meeting December 13, 2010, and December 29, 2010. At this time, I'll entertain a motion.
I make a motion, Mayor.
I second.
Man, we need to make a
addition. I think Mr. Nace was left off on the December 29th meeting.
Okay, we'll make that correction. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Locke. Okay, are there any questions? Discussions? Public comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item number 5, Finance Committee Report, Resolution 111364, Bills and Claims for the month of December. Mr.
So,
Locke.
Mayor, I move that we accept the resolution 111364 for bills and claims for the month of December 2010.
We have a motion
Second.
and second. Are there any questions? Discussion? Public comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item number 6, Ms. Cindy Haynes, Hill and Zena and Company. We'll have a presentation on our budget audit. Both.
All right.
Okay, I assume by now that all of you have a copy of the audit report. It's rather lengthy, so if you, when and if you do have a chance to read it or whatever, I'll briefly discuss some of the highlights, and you'll be more than welcome to call me, contact me, or Ms. Goldman. She has all my references if we have questions, but I'll briefly go through it. The first slide that we have showed, and this is strictly the general fund. It doesn't involve the sales tax fund or the sewer use fee fund, but we normally just look at the general fund expenditures. And we'll see that for the year ended June 30, 2010, that we expended approximately $11 million. In June 30 of 2009, it was $11,053,000. So you'll see from year to year, very, very little change. The only change that we basically see from year to year is not in the general fund, but in our other funds because of federal funds or whatever. But the general fund, I can remember even back with Mayor Hawkins, we would discuss, our budget stays around $10 million and has for years. So that's what the city, and with the economy and everything like it is, needless to say, if we can stay at 10 million, we'll be doing well. This shows a comparison for the past 3 or 4 years for each category. Now, the general government did go up some from, let's see, about 3.4 million for the current year, but a lot of that has to do with salaries, insurance. We all know health insurance, things like that go up. We really have no control over those if we're going to provide those benefits. Police, you can see it stayed pretty moderate at about 2.2 million. Same thing with fire, 2.5, 2.6 million. Streets, now this is not the street improvement program, but just streets in general. And look, some of the money that comes out of the general fund, very low amount of $740,000. Sewer, the same thing. It's not the main sewer project, but just some reimbursements, some rehab, things we have to do. 1.0 million. Recreation's running about 560,000. And then all the other programs within the general fund or departments, which would be building maintenance, health and sanitation, etc., run about $650,000 and have been for the last several years. Okay, then we take another picture look at the expenditures, and you will see that based on the same 11.3 million that we're talking about, percentage-wise how they fall in. And we'll see that general government is naturally the largest, and that's basically your administrative department. Then we see we have fire and police, our public safety departments. Then from there, the others fill in the other approximate 20 or 30%. And I looked, compared it to the previous year, and it varies 1 or 2 percentage points. And it's been that way, like I said, for several years. Okay, now we go to our revenue, and again, this is just for the general fund, but you'll see that our revenues are about 12.5 million, and we were looking at 11.3 million on the expenditures. So we're running a tight ship and have been for, like I said, for several years. But of our revenues, you'll see that approximately 63% are from taxes. And then 25% is intergovernmental. Now, intergovernmental is anything coming from some other governmental agency. There is where we'll see our capital and non-capital grants funding that we get. And this, or shouldn't say this year, for the year ended 6/30/2010, the city of Bastrop expended $2.2 million in federal funds. So that, you know, if it wasn't for that, you don't know where we would be, you might want to say. Okay, and again, this is the same graph, but it just has the dollar amounts. You can see of the 12 million revenues that we bring in, 7.9 are from taxes and 3.1 are from the intergovernmental, which is state, majority of it state and federal funding. Excuse me. Okay, this is a actual to budget comparison with the budget being the blue lines. So you will see in all of the departments, except maybe the streets, the budget was, or the actual was well below the budget expenditures. So our department heads did a wonderful job in controlling and containing costs to the best of their abilities. I think they did, and I know you will agree with me. Okay, now back to taxes that we said contributed 63% to our revenue. This is a breakdown of those taxes. We'll see that sales tax is 57%, ad valorem tax is 38%, and the rest is gross receipts, which is a minimal amount. But we can see that sales tax, which that has a lot to do with our economy, people's spending habits, whatever, generates the majority of our revenue. Okay, at this point, I want to thank Mr. McKee, wherever you're at, for doing my graphs again for me. He always does a really good job. And just a few other highlights, and then I'll let y'all ask questions if you have any. From the previous year to this year, our assets, which this includes capital assets, everything the city owns, decreased approximately $1 million. But then we have to take into account, too, that the massive amount of equipment, capital assets that we do have, it depreciates over the year. So, I mean, that's not uncommon for it to decrease a little bit. Our liabilities decreased, which that's wonderful. I timely met all of our debt requirements. All the debt was paid on time. But overall, our net assets increased about $1 million. So basically, everything's staying about the same from one year to the next. Okay, our revenues were $14.8 million in 2009, increased slightly to $15.2 million in 2010. Expenditures increased about the same. The bottom line basically increased about $200,000. Okay, the major capital assets that we bought during the fiscal year ended June 30, 2010 was for the police equipment, and that's the big technology grants that we've had. We had one in 2005 that, believe it or not, was just finished this year, which it was you know, in accordance with the contract, and we have begun the 2008 technology grant, and it is, I had it written down somewhere, that's how much is that? 2-point-something million dollars. The other one, the 05 grant, was about $250,000, I think, but this grant is substantially more. And like I said, it took us 5 years, and they allowed us 5 years to spend the 05. So it may be a while before we get it expended, but it will be expended. Like I said, all the debt requirements were met. Related to the next year, when you guys met, and Sandra and a lot of them worked so hard on the budget, you budgeted and prepared a budget based on, and adopted a budget based on an expected decline in revenues. Because it's been coming, we've been knowing it's coming. But you dropped your revenues from $14 million to $12 million, and basically did the same thing on the expenditures. So approximately a $2 million cut from fiscal year ended 6/30/09 to 6/30/10 to the current year that we're in now. Now, the only thing on the sewer use fee fund, well, that's the fund that the fund balance, the cash there is restricted strictly for sewer improvements. Increased its budget by $1.2 million, And that was because of the recovery money that we're expecting to get, that revolving, that free, no payback revolving loan. We're gonna use that money for some capitalization projects. The sales tax fund, which those funds are for roads, whatever, it increased approximately $319,000. But we didn't, again, it's not local revenue, it's grants that we're expecting an increase in. So I know that's a lot of information to inhale and decipher in a few moments. So like I said, if anybody has questions, you are more than free to contact me or Ms. Goldman, or does anybody have questions currently?
Do you remember what was the gross sales tax for 2009?
I was trying to think if I would have that. For '09, Sandra, you don't have a copy of the previous, no, you don't.
Oh, I didn't bring in. I can get that information though to you.
Well, I might, let me see. Well, okay, I've got enough information here to tell you that percentage-wise of our total tax revenue, it also was one of those that only varied 1 or 2%.
Okay, so we didn't.
So I don't know dollar amount, but percentage-wise, it's still, you know, about the same as it was the previous year. The breakdown of revenues and expenditures, all of those percentages stayed basically the same. But I'll be glad to get that information if you want it. Just let me know and I'll get it to you. And I don't know, Sandra, in y'all's budget, I'm assuming, you know, they took into account that, you know, IP was,
Yeah.
We
well, see,
did.
yeah,
so that's
John,
what
he'll give us that
yeah,
information.
so.
Are there any other questions for Ms. Haynes?
But I appreciate so much y'all letting me be of service, and do call me. Thank you.
Thank you for the work that you do, Ms. Haynes. We appreciate you. Item number 7, Resolution 111365, a resolution informing the Louisiana Department of Environmental Quality of actions taken to maintain permit requirements for the Louisiana Water Discharge Permit System, LWDPS number LA0020443, main treatment plant. Joe Fontenot, would you come give us an update on that information, please?
Yes, ma'am. This is just a annual thing we have to submit to the DEQ to ensure that we're keeping up to date with all our permit requirements on our permits. And the two different ordinances on there tonight, the two different resolutions are for each plant. And it's just we submit a list every year to confirm that we're gonna maintain equipment and do treatment as the best of our ability on a continuing basis. So,
At this time, I will entertain a motion for Resolution 111365.
So moved.
Second.
Properly moved and second. Are there any questions? Discussion? Public comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item number 8, Resolution 111366, resolution informing the Louisiana Department of Environmental Quality of actions taken to maintain permit requirements for Louisiana Water Discharge Permit System, LWDPS number LA0020109, West Treatment Plant. Joe already briefed you on that one. What is your pleasure?
I can make a motion.
Properly moved
Second.
and second. Are there any questions? Discussion? Public comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item number 9, ordinance 104198, an ordinance setting the franchise fee to be paid by those entities providing cable or video service within the city of Bastrop, Louisiana's municipal limits under a state-granted franchise authority and otherwise providing with respect thereto. Mr. Lawrence.
Yes, ma'am. Mayor, this is a request for a continuation of a franchise fee that is currently assessed in connection with cable television and video service that's provided citywide. This is governed under state law. It's a statewide provision. In other words, if a cable television provider wants to provide services in your city, they get permission from the Secretary of State. They don't come here. But that same law says that you have the right as the local governing authority to be able to impose a franchise fee on that entity which is operating in your city and using your infrastructure. And the maximum fee that's allowed is 5%. And so there's a request for a continuation of the assessment of this particular fee on franchise services in the city.
Having heard that explanation, at this time I will entertain a motion.
I'd like to make a motion, Mayor.
Properly moved.
That's second.
I think I heard 2 seconds. And second. Are there any questions? Discussion? Public comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item number 10, discussion, action, approval of airport hangar lease, termination assignment, and new lease agreement for hangar number 3. Mr. Lawrence.
Mayor, this follows a request that I received from Alex Rankin, an attorney here in Bastrop, who's representing a gentleman who's interested in leasing hangar number 3 at the airport. That same hangar was under lease with a company called Southland Aviation, and Southland wishes to assign their lease agreement that they have with the city to a new person by the name of Mr. Earl to pay the exact same amount of the lease rate and also for the same term of the lease. One of the beneficial things about this particular lease that we drew up is that it required the owner, as a part of the consideration or a part of the rent that's paid to the city, to actually take an old hangar and to rehab it. When I got this call from Mr. Rankin, I asked Mr. Elton, the airport manager, would he go out and look at the hangar and confirm that there had been some repairs and rehab done by Southland. And he sent me some photos confirming that there has been substantial work done in conformity with the lease requirement. And on that basis, one of the recommendations that I've made to the city is that it's in the city's best interest to continue to lease the hangar as is to a new owner through an assignment agreement so that we can continue to collect that revenue. And after the 20th year of the lease, it's our hangar. We can lease it to somebody else after that, or we can continue an existing lease agreement with whoever's there at the time. So this is a request to basically substitute the parties that are leasing the hangar from Southland Aviation to Mr. Billy Earl. That's the name of the person that has an interest in it.
What is your pleasure on this request?
May I make a motion?
Have a motion
I second.
and second. Any questions? Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Item number 11, Ms. Pamela Benton, Bastrop High School alumni class. Would you state your name, your address, purpose?
Pamela Benton, 2517 Providence Avenue, Bastrop, Louisiana. Purpose is to ask permission to be able to sell, to have alcoholic beverages. We're planning our class reunion, and we're going to have a block party in the park, and we needed permission from the council to be able to do so. We've already secured security, and we're actually going to rent out that particular part of the park, so therefore no other people will be there except the classmates.
Okay, I asked Mr. McKee to do some research on how this has been handled in the past, and that this request is different from what we have done. So, Mr. McKee, if you would you come up, and at that time, after Mr. McKee gives us some historic information in reference to this request, and I'm going to ask Mr. Lawrence if he will address
Mayor, so that we can be clear on the record, which park is it?
Okay, Ms. Benton?
It's gonna be Carter Park.
Okay, Mr. McKee, if you will give us some historic information on how we have handled a request of this nature.
Okay, to my knowledge, we never did Carter Park, on a request of this type. We have the Dotson Park, and traditionally it's for events like a blues festival. There's an ordinance that says there's no alcoholic beverages allowed in the park, and the council, the mayor and the council has to give permission for it for a one-day event. Now, if I understand Ms. Bennett's request, she wants to use not the whole park, but a section of the park. That section is located immediately behind Granny's, where the small girls softball field is, if that helps.
Okay. You're deserving of having as much information as possible as you prepare to make a decision on your intentions to or not to honor this request. Mr. Lawrence, is there anything that comes to your mind that the council needs to be aware of? Thank you, Mr. McKee.
Not right off, other than it is the council's prerogative to be able to grant that type of authorization. I didn't hear, other than the softball place or locate park area, I didn't hear anything else. In terms of other things that are located close by, that might be an issue. And just to clarify, my understanding is this will be just a small section or segment of the park.
How much area, Mr. McKee?
If I can briefly I think I can briefly describe it. If you came in the entrance from the south side of the park, behind the entrance that's closest to Granny's, there is a concrete driveway that enters the park. There's a set of bathrooms there. From the bathrooms to the tennis court and back across to the fence located on the west side of the park near the cable television building. And the reason for it is it's easy to section off that part. That covers bathroom facilities, that cover lighting in the park, and if you're gonna say, so the council have all information, that if there was a drawback, it's also the playground area. Any more questions?
No. What kind of time frame are you talking about? 8 to 12?
Okay.
I can't think of any special problem that I see, Mayor. It's clearly the prerogative of this body at this point.
Do you need any further clarity?
No.
What is your pleasure?
Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to accept Ms. Benton's request.
Okay,
Second.
we have a motion and a second.
Mayor, I'm sorry, I did
Mason, go ahead.
have one question for Ms. Benton. Who's responsible, or is your party, this is a class reunion, right? And y'all are responsible for the cleanup on this? Okay. I'll second it.
Okay, I think it was already second, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Didn't I hear second? All in favor? Are there any questions? Discussion? Public comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item number 12, the mayor and board of aldermen will convene an executive session to discuss the threat of prospective litigation involving A, People Water Company, B, Atmos Energy. At this time, we will go into executive session. Mr.
Requires a
Long.
vote. At least 4 of you must vote in favor. There's a 2/3 requirement of the entire body.
Okay. At this time, I will entertain your vote.
I make a motion, Mayor.
Yes. Second.
Properly moved in second. Any questions, discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? At this time, we will recess to our,
Not right now, Mark.
Ms. Goldman, roll call as we reconvene.
You need to make a motion here, Gillian?
Oh, no, no.
Okay. Mr. Moore?
Here.
Mr. Johnson?
Here.
Mr. Nathan?
Here.
Mr. Armstrong?
Here.
Mr. Long?
Here.
All present, Mayor.
Thank you, Ms. Goldman. As I look at my agenda, we are down to item number 13. Mr. Lawrence, do we need to cover anything else before I call for a vote to adjourn this meeting?
No, no, ma'am, not to my knowledge. I think we're good.
Okay. Ms. Goldman, we good?
Good.
Okay. At this time, I will entertain a motion to adjourn this meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Properly moved and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. This meeting is adjourned.